is good, agency owners? This is Jordan Ross, founder of 8-Figure Agency, and we have an amazing success story conversation today. We got Brennan Haelig, founder of Jumpstart ROI, who in the last year has added over $1 million in annual recurring revenue to his business. And more than that, he's been able to build a business that doesn't require him doing everything, right? So not only has he grown, he's also bought back a little bit of his freedom too. So great conversation. If you want to add $1 million in a year, get more of your time back, this is the conversation for you. So Brennan, before we dive in, for people that don't know you or Jumpstart ROI, who is Brennan? What is Jumpstart ROI?
Well, Jumpstart ROI, we're a paid ads agency. Facebook, Google, and LinkedIn ads is really our core competency. Been around for about 5 years, started the agency in 2019. And like Jordan said, have been growing super, super fast. We've got a rock star team of people now that I'm working with. And yeah, basically what we do is done for you ads management for our clients. We do a little bit of like CRM and go high level work on the back end, but the core of what we do is paid ads all day and every day. So that's what I live and breathe.
All day, baby. Awesome. Well, Brennan, thank you so much for coming on. And I want to give everyone a context of where we started with you, right? So a year ago, you were doing less than $500,000 a year. So you're in the six figures and you're wanting, this is actually crazy. I have the note. You wanted to grow to over 100K a month, which you obviously did. You want to be able to keep good margins, but here were the problems that we started with. We need assistance with niche offer. We need help with our fulfillment. Our fulfillment's a bottleneck. We need a better client onboarding process. I need more time to work on the business. I need help with operations and, diversification. So that's where we started. But those are my notes. What, from your perspective, what made you want to join 8F a year ago, and ultimately sign up? And what was that why for you?
Mm-hmm. So at that time, I was still working with a primarily overseas based team who was all not client facing. So I was still really doing, it was a little bit of everything. I wasn't doing all of the fulfillment, but I was project managing everything. I was the only person communicating with clients. And so that was a big bottleneck. And I knew at the time that was a big bottleneck for me. And I knew that to get to where I wanted to go, I needed to just kind of get past this hump of building some better systems, figuring out how to bring on team members that could handle more of the work. And I sort of had this, limiting belief or what I knew was a limiting belief of like, I have to do everything. I'm the only one who can do these more strategic parts of the business. And I think I originally just saw your stuff probably on LinkedIn. I'm sure it just started getting fed to me through the algorithm. And I've had, different experiences through different kind of coaching and consulting programs and stuff in the past. And it's always kind of helped me get sort of towards the next step. And so at the time, a year ago, I had not been in any kind of program like that for quite a while. And so I was like, well, this year I have these objectives, like we have some, cash to reinvest in things. And I know that I need to just kind of take a leap and get some accountability. And I think the thing that was attractive to me as well was the community aspect, as well as the actual like ongoing consultative aspect, rather than just like buying another course. Because I think I had the like knowledge, but what I was missing was having like somebody giving me a clear roadmap for implementing and then keeping me accountable throughout that whole process.
The course model too. I think everyone's had bad course experiences. So we know where you were. Let's take this in phases. What were some of the things from a foundational perspective? We'll call it in the initial 3 to 6 months. What did we do and what did we build that made big impacts that later compounded to you being able to add over $1 million in annual revenue?
Yeah. So the first like two things that I would say were the most impactful were, number one, I worked with Herbert on your guys' team, who is awesome. Can't say enough good things about him. And he had, kind of outlined the agency roadmap for me. And one of the first big deliverables that I worked on was mapping out what we now call our new client SOP, which I had sort of half baked for quite a while, but never really had made it to the point where it was really usable or where I could hand it off. And so we basically set up, what I'll say, like we set up our internal systems, but like specifically what that was like building out a template project inside of Asana with a lot of details that mapped out the step-by-step of what we do when we onboard a new client and how we, basically manage the process. And then that has now become what we still use and duplicate for every new client project that we have. So like putting that down all on paper was one big step for us. And then the second big thing was bringing on our operations manager, Brandon, who's now kind of my right hand man. And that was the first sort of like next, what I call like next level hire of like a higher level US based full time person who could really come on and actually like take over some of the meetings and start to take over some of the day to day fulfillment tasks off my plate. And so those were like the first two big levers that started to get the ball rolling on everything else.
Which makes total sense, right? Like the amount of times I've had someone come on and I say, what do we do in the initial phase? It's always, we built the process. My wording is the process workflow. So that's what it defined, how you engage with clients, what the intricacies and triggers and dependencies are, how do you onboard them, how do you maintain them and continue to fulfill on them. And then when you had that, you're like, oh, now that I've defined my thing, I could probably go hire someone because it's defined. I could hire them into this. So we go hire our ops manager who starts to take over some meetings and then starts to take over a chunk of your day to day. So those are two pretty big things. What happens next? So at this point in this story, we've defined the workflow. We've probably built a lot of SOPs. We probably start building training. We hire this guy and we start delegating to some things. What happens next from there?
Yeah, so once we had that in place, and part of building that system was also systemizing and automating our onboarding a little bit more. So we made like a very detailed onboarding form. We connect all the like Zapier automations. So now like they fill out a form and a bunch of automated stuff happens. So like that part became much more streamlined. I have this account manager in place. The next big thing was honestly just upgrading the caliber of the media buyers or strategists that we had on the team. So beforehand, these were primarily overseas team that were all not communicating directly with clients. So I was still the bottleneck, and my account manager would have been sort of the bottleneck in that process as well. But then I was like, well, what if we just hired better people in all of these roles? And lo and behold, like that was kind of the next biggest lever for us was just upgrading the talent. And so, we had to restructure a little bit how we did like compensation. We also like raised our rates a little bit. But what turned out happening was, yes, our margin was maybe a little bit lower in the short term, but over time, this has allowed us to retain our clients way more, save me a ton of time. And now we have, our average retainer is much higher, and we haven't even really changed our pricing model that much. It's just that we're able to deliver a much higher level of service. And so we attract better clients, we keep better clients longer, which means more money, more margins, and everything works out. And so that was a huge game changer, was hiring these strategists that I can just put them in direct contact with the client. So I don't even really need to deal with much of that anymore. And then we also changed to having all of our clients inside of Slack instead of doing email with all of our clients. And that was like the next level to everything, where now I just onboard the client into Slack. I introduce them to the strategist they're going to work with. And it's almost to the point now where I don't even really hardly need to do much to get it started past that, because the strategists know what to do. They can meet with the client without me. I'm still on some of the meetings, but for the most part, a lot of that can happen without me because I hired great people and I didn't even really need to train them because they had already worked in agencies. They already more or less knew what to do. I kind of teach them our way of doing things, but they already have the core skill set. I didn't need to worry about taking them from 0 to 1. And so that was a huge game changer for us, just better talent across the board and streamlining everything in Slack were sort of steps 3 and 4 that allowed us to then free up the capacity for me to go out and get a bunch of more clients.
All right. I mean, which all makes sense, right? Because a lot of times I talk about, for the right founder, if we give you your time back, can you double your business? That's a question we always ask when we're meeting people. Like, where's your time going? It's ops, it's fulfillment. It's like, I'm doing the thing. And okay, if we free up that time, where's it go? Well, I could sell. And if you sell over the course of a year, how much are you going to grow? And for you, a lot of people say I could probably add 1 million in the next year. You actually did. So we made the decision to hire not only ops manager, but some media buyers and strategists. We changed how we hired. So we built different comp structures. We raised our rates to be able to have a decent or good enough margin to be able to afford that. But the byproduct, which you probably didn't expect, was my LTV increased because the service is better. And now I have more time. And from this time, let's go solve the next thing, which is let's get our clients to have email to build better workflows and communications. Here's a quick question on the hiring. Was there something you learned through us and with us around hiring and the hiring process that was an insight that you didn't have? That when we did that was, and some of those insights are just, oh, this is what I thought it might be. but like I wasn't doing it, right? What was an insight that you gained through that hiring process?
Yeah, I mean, I think helping kind of build like the qualifying process, the application, I can't remember the word that you guys had for it, but or the wall, right? The wall that they have to pass through, that was definitely helpful. Honestly, also having my account manager source talent for us, that was the other thing. And that was something that Herbert was like, why don't you just have him do it? Because I was so busy still at this time. Like, because the me freeing up my time was not immediate, and it's very much even still in progress. But I was thinking, all right, I have to go out and do all of the initial talent sourcing. Well, it was like, well, Brandon, our ops manager, he can post jobs on Upwork and LinkedIn and Indeed, and he can shortlist candidates and then just send them to me. And so that's actually how we found like almost all of our best team members is he goes out and does that. When I tell him, hey, we're getting close to capacity, we need a new team member for this, he just goes out and posts these jobs, and then he'll shortlist people and send them to me. So that was something that was a game changer as well. And Herbert's always kind of challenging me with this, where he's like, well, do you actually have to do it, or why don't you just have Brandon do it, or whoever else on the team do it? So that definitely helped a lot. So yeah.
Very cool. So the wall and leveraging your talent to source for you, which is like duh, but I never thought of it, right? Okay, so at this point, quick recap: workflow, better onboarding, ops manager, media buyer, strategist, changing how we source, hire, filter, DQ talent, uh, increasing rates, uh, better LTV. You're having more time. We change how we communicate. How long did all this take? How many months? Like, did all these things take, give or take?
Honestly, probably we probably about 6 months, honestly. Like, I think we had started with you guys in like April of last year. And really, by like the core team that we have now hasn't changed much since the end of last year. And so it was those first 6 months where we brought on, it was really like two or three new strategists to the team that are now like critical members of our team who have been absolute rock stars. That all happened in that like 6 month period. It took me a little bit longer to start getting off more of the meetings and fully handing them off to the team. But by that 6 months point, we had like the system in place, we had the team, and then it just, I'm still somewhat the bottleneck here, but it was just on me of like, all right, start letting stuff go and like actually like seeing if I can really be out and believing that the team can handle it without me. Then that was kind of like the next thing. And we're still working on that, but like the more I've let the team just kind of do it without me, like drop the ball, if you will, like in a not in a like don't care way, but it's just let's drop the ball and see what happens, see if someone will pick it up. That started to happen end of last year, early this year, and then that started to free up even more of my bandwidth to work on everything else.
So that's an insight too. Like you started to give your team the freedom to fix things.
Yeah, I think, and not feeling like I had to respond to every little thing in Slack. It took a minute because I was so used to doing all of that to where it took a minute for the team to kind of figure out like, oh, like I'm supposed to be the one, passing on updates to clients. Like what I was, trying to train them on was what I call closing the loop. So like we have our internal project management tool, which is Asana, where they're updating when products are or when tasks are complete. But then instead of me having to then say, hey, client task is complete, they can just go over to Slack and tell the client, like, I don't even need to be involved. I don't even really need to review it because they're good enough to do it pretty well the first time. Then the client can just review it directly. Like, not even having to be involved in that process. I still have visibility on like, cool, tasks are getting checked off, but I don't need to like review every little thing because the team is just doing that on their own and then just sending it to the client directly. So, just kind of letting them do that without me stepping in and realizing that, oh, clients aren't any less happy just because Brennan's not the only one talking to them. They're perfectly happy as long as whoever they're talking
Perfectly
to is
content.
able to solve their problem, answer their questions. They're happy with that.
And after all this, what happened next? How'd you start to grow? What'd you do with your time?
Um, so the crazy thing, the interesting thing with us is like Upwork is still the main source of where we get our leads from. And so my Upwork profile has just been like spitting out clients on autopilot for, well, not really on autopilot, but just consistently for a long time. And we haven't honestly changed a whole lot about how we do that. So I have a team member who just sends outbound proposals all day on on my Upwork profile. But for whatever reason, I think as we've had more completed projects on there and my profile's grown a little bit, we just get more and more leads. And so that has just been super consistent. And so I've been able to focus a little more time on following up with them consistently, giving them more value. I guess one of the other things that we did change, now that I'm thinking about it, is we've started to do like more audits and campaign plans up front for free. So we don't really have like a top of funnel lead magnet per se, but in a sense, that's kind of what we use, where we just give them a bunch of value up front for free. Not, and then plus we can just talk to them with a level of confidence that I don't think they get from the other people they might talk to if they're coming through from Upwork. And so that's been a big game changer. Is we'll just provide them like a fairly detailed, and we've created a template now for these audits to where it doesn't take our team that much time. We can give them what appears to be and what is like a fairly detailed roadmap of exactly what we would do if we were to come on and engage with them. And so that's been great as far as increasing the closing rate for the leads that we were already getting. So like our lead volume hasn't changed a ton on from that particular channel, but our closing rates improved and our LTV is and our retention has improved a lot because we're able to give them a lot more value because we have a better team. So that is one of the things. And then the other change was testing out these new channels. So cold email and now our newsletter have started to pick up a little bit more as well. And so that's helped fill the pipeline. And then we also just have started getting a bunch more referrals because we've been giving a lot better service because our team is better. Like it all ties back to the team being better. But we're giving much better service, so we're getting more referrals, and all of that has snowballed into a whole bunch more clients.
And that is how you added $1 million in a year. Is that right? That's the final
It's pretty much it. I mean, pretty much it. Honestly, it's really
seven
been like
steps.
the fundamentals have not changed a ton. It's just consistency, repetition, and just really delivering quality service every time. Um,
And that's, I want to highlight that because business is not complicated. People are. The hard thing is getting out of our own way, having the right system, being able to source, hire, onboard, train. And when we do that, we free up more time. And from all this time that I now have, boom, I could reinvest in it. And just to reiterate, right? Like when you started to focus on sales, sales start to compound because you had more time because you're able to close more. You were able to improve the audit process to be able to increase your close rate. And now you could start to test new channels, which look, the newsletter, it might not be humming along today, but I could tell if you stick at the newsletter for the next 12, 24, 36 months, that will keep compounding and growing, and your referrals will lead to more referrals, and the flywheel will keep growing.
I got two booked calls from it today. So
Boom, boom. Awesome. Well, guys, like, there you go. Like, it's not always so complicated. Even though this is a lot of hard work, this is a lot of work, but we're not doing rocket science. We're being able to execute plans. So, Brennan, I think we could put a bow on it there. For everyone watching and listening that wants to learn more about you or Jumpstart, where can they find more information about you?
yeah, go to jumpstartroi.com. That's our website. You can check out what we do. You can find me at LinkedIn, Brennan Haelig. It's just my name. Feel free to connect with me on there. Shoot me a message. I love talking about this stuff. I'll ramble on for hours. So more than happy to get on calls with people and chat. Love meeting other agency owners too, people that speak our language. And yeah, love to connect with other awesome people.
And if you're watching or listening and you are ready to escape your business prison, which is what I call it, and you're struggling, you want to grow, you can be the next success story on this podcast, on this channel. So, Brennan, thank you for coming on. If you're listening and you need help, go to the link below, go to the link above, wherever the link is in any direction, book a call with us, and we're happy to help you. Brennan, thanks for coming on.